Winter is the best time to prune your plants. Plants are dormant in the winter time, and pruning can be very stressful on your plants, so it's good to do the pruning while they're dormant. It's also good to get the pruning out of the way before March or April comes, when the leaves come out on the trees. It's good to keep in mind that when you're pruning a tree, you're actually wounding the tree. So it's important when you're pruning to make sure you make as few cuts as possible. It's also a good idea to have some specific objectives in mind for when you're pruning, to make sure that you're not over pruning that tree or shrub. A tree that's hanging over the sidewalk, for example, maybe you need to remove a few branches off of it. Or a shrub that's a little too tall for its spot, maybe you need to clip it down a little bit to remove some of the taller branches. Some of the tools you're going to need for a pruning project include a hand pruners. These are useful for pruning branches that are 1 inch in diameter or smaller. An important thing to keep in mind about your hand pruners is you have to have a bypass blade. Notice how the blades slide by one another like a scissors. That gives you a nice clean cut on your tree. If the branches are larger than 1 inch in diameter, you can use one of two tools. You can use a loppers that has that same bypass blade, which gives you a nice clean cut. Or if the branches are bigger than 1 inch in diameter, you can use a pruning saw. A pruning saw is actually preferable to a loppers because you can get a nice clean cut, and sometimes a loppers will smash a larger branch. But no matter what tool you're using, it's a really good idea to spray down your tools with some sort of disinfectant once you're done, because you don't want to pass diseases from one plant to the next plant. There are two basic pruning cuts you need to know in order to accomplish a pruning job. One's called a reduction cut, and one's called a removal cut. So for example, if I wanted to remove this entire branch, I would find the spot on the tree where the branch meets the trunk, and there's a swelling there and also a little ridge of bark tissue that's called the branch collar. You want to make sure you make your pruning cut right outside of the branch collar. If you cut too close to the tree and you cut into that branch collar, what you're going to do is damage the trunk tissue, and it's difficult for the tree to heal around that cut. Likewise, if you cut too far out onto the branch and leave a bit of a stub, it's also difficult for the tree to heal. So you need to find that branch collar, the little swelling there, and make your cut right outside that branch collar. To make a reduction cut, so for example, of this branch, if you wanted to reduce the size of it, what you would do is you would look along the branch and find a side branch, which is where you're going to be making your actual cut. This side branch is going to act as the new leader of the branch, so when you make your cut, the energy will come up the tree and you'll have a new growing point where this branch is. You'll make your cut right at the very edge where the branch is coming out, the side branch is coming out, and you won't leave a bit of a stub so that it has a nice spot to heal over. If you were to cut the branch just at any indiscriminate point up here without cutting it at a side branch, what will happen is it'll sprout a bunch of new sprouts. Those sprouts are going to have a weak attachment and they're not going to look natural. So when you're subtending a branch, you need to cut it off at a side branch. You can utilize these two pruning cuts to accomplish all of your pruning goals. For example, if you wanted to reduce the size of this shrub, what you would do is use a reduction cut or a removal cut to remove some of the tallest branches. What I would do is pick out the 4 or 5 tallest branches and remove them using a reduction or a removal cut. Take a step back and see if that looks good to you. If you like it, that's great. If you don't, you can go back and make 4 or 5 cuts of the taller branches, reducing them in size. That way you're keeping the plant looking natural, and that's the way we like to prune our trees and shrubs here at the Springs Preserve. So if you have any further questions about pruning or gardening, please feel free to come down to the Springs Preserve and talk to one of the gardeners. We're always here to answer questions.
If you plan to replace your lawn with a water-smart landscape this spring, take a drip irrigation class at the Springs Preserve. The class equips you with the skills to design and install a drip system which will replace your sprinkler system when you remove turf. You'll learn how to select and assemble components and build a drip model in the classroom. The classes are free and taught by the SNWA's expert staff. Reservations are required. Sign up at springspreserve.org.